Jake Morrison walked through the crowded streets of Zephyr Station with his hands in his pockets. The air smelled bad, like sweat and fear mixed with the strange chemicals that alien species breathed. He did not want to be here. He hated this place and everything it stood for. Zephyr Station sat on the edge of space where no government had control. Here, anything could be bought or sold if you had enough credits. That included people. Jake's stomach turned as he thought about why he had come to this awful place. 3 human colonies had gone silent in the past month. The colonial navy believed slavers had attacked them. Jake's job was to find out what happened to the missing colonists. He was supposed to pretend to be a regular trader looking for cheap labor. The slave markets were in the lower levels of the station. Jake took the lift down, past the legitimate shops and restaurants. The deeper he went, the worse the smell became. By the time he reached the markets, he could barely breathe without feeling sick. Alien voices filled the air, speaking in dozens of different languages. Jake saw creatures he had never seen before. Some were tall and thin with too many arms. Others were short and covered in scales. A few looked almost human except for their strange colored skin or extra eyes. The slaves were kept in metal cages, along the walls. Jake forced himself to look at them. Most were aliens he did not recognize, but he spotted a few humans among them. They looked broken and hopeless. Their eyes stared at nothing. A large alien with gray skin and 4 arms approached. Jake. "You look for workers, human?" it asked in broken English. "I have strong ones. Good for mining or construction." Jake nodded but did not speak. He needed to look like he belonged here. The alien led him past several cages full of different species. Jake tried not to look too closely at the conditions. The slaves had little food or water. Many showed signs of beatings. "What about telepaths?" Jake asked. He had heard that psychic aliens were popular in the slave trade. "I need someone who can read minds for business deals." The gray alien's eyes lit up. "Ah, yes, very expensive usually. But I know someone with damaged goods. Much cheaper." They walked to a darker section of the market. Here, the cages were smaller, and the conditions even worse. The alien stopped in front of a cage in the corner. Inside sat a young female with blue-tinted skin and pointed ears. "This is Kira," the alien said. "She is Villani. Her people have strong mind powers. But this one is broken. Previous owner used neural dampeners too long. Now her abilities barely work." Jake looked at the girl in the cage. She was thin and covered in bruises. Her clothes were torn rags. But when she looked up at him, he saw something in her eyes that the other slaves had lost. Intelligence, hope, the will to survive. "How much?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "For you, only 5,000 credits. Usually telepaths cost 50,000 or more. But this one is no good for mind reading anymore. Only fit for cleaning or simple tasks." The alien opened the cage and pulled Kira out by a chain around her wrist. She stumbled but did not fall. Jake could see metal devices attached to her head. Those must be the neural dampeners. "She understands basic English," the alien continued. "Can translate some alien languages too. Previous owner taught her before he gave up on her." Jake watched as other potential buyers examined Kira like she was a piece of equipment. They checked her teeth, felt her arms for muscle, and asked rude questions about her abilities. She endured it all without emotion, as if she had learned that showing feelings only led to more pain. One buyer, a reptilian creature with sharp teeth, seemed interested. "Does she fight back?" it asked. "Not anymore," the alien seller replied. "She learned her place. Very obedient now." Jake felt anger building in his chest. These creatures were talking about a living, thinking person like she was a broken tool. He had seen enough. "I'll take her," Jake said quickly. The reptilian buyer hissed in annoyance. "I was here first, human." "But I'm offering the full asking price right now," Jake replied. He pulled out his credit chip. No bargaining, no delays. The gray alien grabbed the chip immediately. "Sold to the human," it announced happily. "She is yours now." Jake watched as the seller removed some of Kira's restraints but left the neural dampeners in the chain. "Those stay on," the alien explained. "For your safety. Villani can be dangerous if their powers work properly." Fine, Jake said, though he planned to remove everything as soon as they reached his ship. The alien handed Jake a small remote control. This controls the pain collar hidden under her hair. Press the red button if she disobeys. The blue button will knock her unconscious. Jake took the device but wanted to throw it away immediately. Instead, he clipped it to his belt and grabbed Kira's chain. She followed him without resistance, her head down and shoulders bent. They walked through the market toward the lift. Jake noticed how other traders and buyers looked at them. Some nodded approvingly, as if he had made a good purchase. Others seemed envious that he had found such a cheap telepath. Kira walked beside him in silence. She did not try to run or call for help. She had probably learned long ago that escape was impossible. Jake wondered how many years she had been a slave and what terrible things had been done to her. As they waited for the lift, Jake caught her looking at him from the corner of her eye. Their gazes met for just a second before she looked away again. In that brief moment, he saw a question in her expression. She was trying to figure out what kind of master he would be. The lift doors opened, and they stepped inside. Jake pressed the button for the docking level where his ship waited. Soon they would be away from this horrible place. Then the real work would begin. He had to find a way to help this broken girl become whole again. Jake led Kira through the docking bay to his ship. The Wanderer was not big or fancy, but it was clean and well-maintained. Other ships nearby looked ready to fall apart, but Jake took care of his vessel. Kira followed behind him on the chain, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. She kept her head down and watched for any sign of anger or violence from her new owner. In her experience, humans were no different from other species when it came to cruelty. "This is home," Jake said as they entered the ship. He pressed a button and the airlock sealed behind them. The ship felt warm and safe compared to the cold station outside. Jake turned to face Kira. She immediately dropped to her knees and lowered, her head waiting for orders. This was what her previous owners had trained her to do. "Stand up," Jake said gently. "You don't need to kneel." Kira looked confused, but slowly got to her feet. She had learned that disobeying orders led to pain, but this human seemed different somehow. Jake reached for the chain attached to her wrist. Kira flinched and pulled back, expecting to be hit for moving away. Instead, Jake stopped and held up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I want to take this chain off." Kira stared at him. No owner had ever removed her restraints except to put on new ones. She did not understand what he wanted from her. Jake moved slowly and carefully unlocked the chain from her wrist. The metal fell to the floor with a loud clank. Kira rubbed her wrist where the chain had been. Her skin was raw and scarred from years of wearing restraints. "Now the neural dampeners," Jake said, looking at the metal devices attached to her head. Kira's eyes went wide with fear. "No, please," she whispered. "They will hurt if you remove them wrong. Many slaves die when owners try to take them off. I know what I'm doing," Jake said. "I studied Villani biology before coming to get you. These devices are slowly killing you. We need to remove them carefully." Jake led her to the ship's small medical bay. He had prepared for this moment, reading everything he could find about neural dampeners and their effects on telepathic species. "Lie down on the table," Jake said. "This might hurt at first, but then you'll feel better." Kira climbed onto the medical table. She had never been treated by a doctor before. Slaves were usually left to heal on their own or die if their injuries were too severe. Jake used special tools to carefully disconnect the neural dampeners from her skull. Kira cried out as each device came free. The dampeners had been attached for so long that removing them felt like tearing away part of her brain. When the last device was removed, Kira screamed. Suddenly she could feel everything. The thoughts and emotions of every person on the nearby ships hit her mind like a hammer. She had forgotten how overwhelming her telepathic abilities could be. "It's okay," Jake said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The feeling will get better as you learn to control your abilities again." Kira curled up on the medical table, holding her head. Tears ran down her face as years of suppressed memories and emotions flooded back. She remembered her family, her home planet, and the day the slavers came. She remembered being torn away from everything she loved. Jake gave her medicine for the pain and covered her with a soft blanket. "Rest now," he said. "You're safe here." For the first time in 15 years, Kira fell asleep without chains or restraints holding her down. When Kira woke up, she found herself in a small but comfortable room. The bed was soft, and someone had left clean clothes for her. She touched the fabric in wonder. The clothes were simple but better than anything she had worn since childhood. She could hear Jake moving around in another part of the ship. Her telepathic abilities were still returning slowly, but she could sense his emotions. He felt concerned about her welfare and determined to help her. This confused Kira greatly. Why would he care about a broken slave? Jake knocked on her door. "May I come in?" he asked. Kira was surprised. No one had ever asked her permission for anything before. "Yes," she said quietly. Jake entered carrying a tray of food. Real food, not the scraps that slaves usually received. There was bread, fruit, and meat that smelled wonderful. "You need to eat," Jake said, setting the tray on a small table. "Your body needs nutrition to heal properly." Kira ate slowly, savoring each bite. She kept watching Jake, waiting for him to demand something in return for his kindness. In her experience, kindness always came with a price. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. Jake sat down across from her. "Nothing," he said. "You're free now. You can leave at any port if you want to." "Free?" Kira repeated the word like she did not understand it. "Yes, free. No more chains, no more owners, no more being treated like property. You can make your own choices now." Kira shook her head. "That is not possible. I am a slave. I have always been a slave." "Not anymore," Jake said firmly. "Slavery is wrong. Every thinking being deserves freedom and respect." Over the next few days, Jake showed Kira around his ship. She was amazed by how he treated her. He asked her opinion about things. He said please and thank you. He never raised his voice or threatened her with punishment. Slowly, Kira began to believe that this human might be different from her previous owners, but she remained cautious. Trust was something she had learned to avoid. Trust led to disappointment and pain. Jake explained that he was a trader who carried cargo between different worlds. His next stop was a peaceful planet where many different species lived together in harmony. "You can stay there if you want," Jake offered. "There are people who help former slaves start new lives." Kira considered this offer. Part of her wanted to leave and never see another slave market again. But another part of her was afraid. Freedom was a concept she barely understood. She had never made decisions for herself, or lived without someone telling her what to do. "I don't know how to be free," she admitted to Jake one evening as they traveled through space. "You'll learn," Jake said kindly. "Freedom is not something you do. It's something you are. And you are free now, whether you feel it or not." 3 months had passed since Jake bought Kira from the slave market. The Wanderer now felt like home to her, though she still sometimes woke up expecting to find herself back in a cage. Jake had taken her to see Dr. Helen Price on New Haven Station. Dr. Price was a human doctor who helped former slaves recover from their experiences. She had kind eyes and a gentle voice that made Kira feel safe. "Your brain shows signs of severe damage from the neural dampeners," Dr. Price had explained, "but Villani minds are strong. With time and care, you should recover most of your abilities." Dr. Price also helped Kira understand her feelings. "What you experienced was not normal," she said. "No one deserves to be treated that way. The fear and anger you feel are normal reactions to terrible treatment." Kira learned words for things she had never been able to name before: trauma, abuse, recovery. These words helped her understand that her experiences had been wrong, not her. As her telepathic abilities grew stronger, Kira discovered she could do things she had never known were possible. She could sense emotions from far away. She could sometimes see brief images from other people's minds. Most importantly, she could tell when someone was lying. This last ability proved very useful in Jake's trading business. When they met with potential customers, Kira would quietly let Jake know if the person was being honest about their offers. She could sense greed, fear, or deception in their thoughts. "That Altarian merchant is planning to cheat you," Kira whispered to Jake during one negotiation. "He has fake credits in his pocket." Jake politely ended the meeting. Later, they learned that the merchant had been arrested for credit fraud. Kira's warning had saved Jake from losing a lot of money. "You're amazing," Jake told her. "I've never had a business partner as good as you." Business partner? Kira liked those words. She was not a slave or a tool. She was Jake's partner. Jake began teaching Kira about starship engineering. She had always been curious about how things worked, but slaves were never allowed to learn technical skills. Now she could ask questions and learn new things every day. "You have a natural talent for this," Jake said as Kira successfully repaired a damaged power coupling. "Have you ever worked on ships before?" "I watched," Kira said. "During my years as a slave, I watched everything. I wanted to understand how the ships worked, even though I was not allowed to touch anything." Kira's memory was incredible. She could remember every detail of every ship she had been on. This knowledge helped her quickly learn to maintain and repair the Wanderer's systems. One day they received a distress signal from a small cargo ship. The crew was human, and their engine had failed in deep space. Jake immediately changed course to help them. "Why are we helping them?" Kira asked. "There is no profit in rescue work." "Because it's the right thing to do," Jake replied. "When people need help, you help them if you can." Kira did not understand this at first. In her experience, people only helped others when they expected something in return. But Jake asked for nothing from the stranded crew except fuel money for the extra travel. As they rescued the stranded humans, Kira began to understand something new about her partner. Jake helped people because he believed it was right, not because he wanted a reward. This was another new concept for her to learn. During the rescue, Kira noticed something troubling. One of the rescued crew members, a woman named Betty Clark, had the same look in her eyes that Kira remembered from her slave days. The look of someone who was afraid all the time. Using her telepathic abilities carefully, Kira sensed Betty's thoughts. The woman was running away from something terrible. She was not a slave, but she was trapped in a situation almost as bad. Her husband beats her. Kira told Jake privately. She is trying to escape to her sister's planet, but she has no money and nowhere to go. Jake listened thoughtfully. "Can you tell if she's telling the truth about needing help?" Kira nodded. "She is very frightened, but she is honest. She just wants to be safe." Without asking for payment, Jake offered to take Betty to her destination. Betty cried with relief and gratitude. Kira watched this interaction and learned another lesson about freedom. Free people could choose to help others without expecting anything back. As they traveled with Betty, Kira found herself talking to another person who had escaped from a bad situation. Betty was amazed by Kira's story and her recovery. "You're so strong," Betty said. "I don't know if I could survive what you went through." "I did not feel strong," Kira replied. "I felt broken for a long time. But Jake showed me that I had value as a person. Dr. Price taught me that my experiences were not my fault. Slowly I began to heal." Betty nodded. "Maybe there's hope for me too." After they delivered Betty safely to her sister, Jake and Kira continued their trading runs. But now they kept watch for other people who needed help. They began quietly assisting runaway slaves and abuse victims. Kira used her telepathic abilities to identify people in trouble. Jake used his connections and credits to help them reach safety. They never asked for payment or recognition. They helped because it was right. "Are we becoming heroes?" Kira asked Jake one evening as they watched the stars. Jake laughed. "No, we're just doing what decent people should do. Heroes are for stories. We're just trying to make things a little better where we can." Kira thought about this. She had gone from being property to being a person. Now she was becoming someone who could help others make the same journey. The scared, broken slave girl was disappearing, replaced by someone stronger and more confident. She still had nightmares sometimes. She still flinched when people moved too quickly. But every day brought new healing and new strength. Every person they helped made her feel more human, more alive. "Thank you," she said to Jake. "For what?" "For showing me who I really am." Jake and Kira had been helping runaway slaves for 6 months when they received an unexpected message. It came from Commander Lisa Chen of the Human Colonial Navy. She wanted to meet them at a neutral space station. "How does she know about our work?" Kira asked nervously. "Are we in trouble?" "I don't think so," Jake replied, though he felt worried too. "The message sounded friendly. Let's see what she wants." They met Commander Chen at a quiet restaurant on Harmony Station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a confident manner. Kira used her telepathic abilities to read the commander's emotions. She sensed determination and hope, but no anger or threat. "I've been watching your activities," Commander Chen said after they sat down. "You've helped 12 former slaves reach safety in the past few months." Jake tensed. "We haven't broken any laws." "Relax," Commander Chen smiled. "I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to ask for your help." She explained that the Human Colonial Navy had been secretly investigating the slave trade for years. They had discovered that millions of beings from dozens of species were held in slavery across the galaxy. The Groxian Empire controlled most of the trade. "We need people on the inside," Commander Chen said. "People who understand how the slave markets work and can move around without raising suspicion." "What exactly are you asking us to do?" Jake asked. "Help us build a network, find other people willing to help, create safe houses where freed slaves can hide, gather information about the major slave traders." Kira listened carefully. Part of her was afraid. Getting involved with the military could be dangerous. But another part of her was excited. This could be a chance to help thousands of people like herself. "I want to do it," Kira said suddenly. "I want to help stop the slave trade." Jake looked at her with surprise. 6 months ago, she had been afraid to make any decisions. Now she was volunteering for a dangerous mission. "Are you sure?" Jake asked. "This could put us both in serious danger." "I am sure," Kira replied. "I cannot forget the people still trapped in those cages. If we can help them, we must try." "Commander," Chen smiled. "Good, we'll start small and build the network gradually." Over the next year, their rescue operation grew much larger. Commander Chen provided them with contacts throughout the galaxy. Jake and Kira recruited other traders, pilots, and station workers who were willing to help. They established safe houses on 12 different worlds. Former slaves could hide there while arrangements were made to send them home or to new lives on friendly planets. Dr. Helen Price helped set up medical facilities to treat the rescued slaves. Kira became the face of the operation for other telepathic species. Many aliens had never trusted humans before, but they trusted her. She could speak their languages and understand their fears. "The humans are different," she would tell frightened Villani slaves. "They believe all thinking beings deserve freedom. They will help you without asking for anything in return." The network rescued hundreds of slaves. They developed clever ways to buy slaves from markets and transport them to safety. Jake's reputation as a legitimate trader provided perfect cover for their activities, but their success brought danger. The slave traders began to notice that slaves were disappearing from their markets. They started asking questions and watching for suspicious activity. The danger became real during a rescue mission on Kepler Station. Jake and Kira had arranged to buy 3 young Altarian slaves from a dealer named Vex. But when they arrived at the meeting, they found Thurok waiting for them instead. Thurok was the Groxian who had originally owned Kira. His 4 eyes glowed with anger as he recognized her. "The broken telepath returns," Thurok sneered. "And she brings her human pet with her." "We're just here to buy slaves," Jake said, trying to stay calm. "Nothing illegal about that." "Illegal, no," Thurok replied. "But very suspicious. You have been buying many slaves lately, human. And none of them seem to stay bought very long." Kira felt fear rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her telepathic abilities were much stronger now than when she had been Thurok's property. She reached out with her mind and sensed his thoughts. Thurok planned to capture them both. He had guards waiting nearby. He wanted to make an example of them to discourage other rescuers. "We need to leave," Kira whispered to Jake. "Now." but it was too late. Thurok's guards surrounded them, weapons drawn. They were trapped. "You cost me a lot of money, broken telepath," Thurok said. "Time to pay it back." The guards forced Jake and Kira into a cargo hold at gunpoint. Thurok sealed the door behind them. The room was dark and cold, with no way out. "I'm sorry," Jake said. "I should have been more careful." "This is not your fault," Kira replied. "We both chose to take this risk." Kira closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathic abilities. She had been practicing and growing stronger every day. Now she discovered she could do things she had never attempted before. She found the minds of the guards outside their prison. Carefully, she began to influence their thoughts. She made them feel sleepy and confused. One by one, they wandered away from their posts. "How did you do that?" Jake asked in amazement. "I am not the same person you bought from that market." Kira replied, "I am much stronger now." They escaped from the cargo hold and made their way to their ship. But Thurok was waiting for them in the docking bay with more guards. "You cannot run from me again, broken telepath," he called out. "My name is Kira," she replied firmly. "And I am not broken anymore." She reached out with her mind and touched Thurok's thoughts. This time she did not try to be gentle. She filled his mind with every memory of pain and fear that he had caused her during her years as his slave. Thurok screamed and fell to his knees, clutching his head. His guards ran away in terror, afraid of the powerful telepath who had broken their leader's mind. Jake and Kira escaped to their ship and flew away from the station. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake looked at his partner with new respect. "You're not the same person I rescued," he said. "No," Kira agreed. "I am someone new, someone who will never be a slave again." 2 years after their escape from Thurok, everything changed. Commander Chen contacted Jake and Kira with urgent news. The human colonial navy was ready to launch coordinated attacks on the major slave markets across the galaxy. "We have enough evidence now," Commander Chen explained during a secret meeting. "Testimony from hundreds of rescued slaves, financial records, and proof of government corruption. It's time to strike." The plan was massive. Naval forces from 12 different species would attack slave markets on 40 different worlds at the East Side, same time. The goal was to free as many slaves as possible and arrest the major dealers before they could escape. "We want you to lead the assault on Zephyr Station," Commander Chen told Kira. "You know that place better than anyone, and the slaves there need to see that one of their own has come back to free them." Kira felt nervous but determined. Returning to the place where her new life had begun felt like completing a circle. "I will do it," she said, "but I want Jake with me." "Of course," Commander Chen agreed. "You two work well together." The attack on Zephyr Station happened at dawn, station time. Naval ships surrounded the station while teams of soldiers and rescued slaves entered through different airlocks. Kira wore a communication device that let her coordinate with teams throughout the station. She and Jake led a team straight to the slave markets in the lower levels. Kira used her telepathic abilities to locate guards and dealers, guiding the soldiers around dangerous areas. Her powers had grown so strong that she could sense minds throughout the entire station. 37 slaves in the main market, she reported through her communicator. 8 guards, all armed. The dealer is trying to escape through the service tunnels. The soldiers moved quickly and efficiently. Years of planning and preparation paid off. Within 2 hours, they had freed every slave on the station and arrested dozens of dealers and guards. Kira walked through the same cages where she had once been held prisoner. Now she wore clean clothes and carried herself with confidence. The newly freed slaves looked at her with amazement. "I was like you once," she told them in several different languages. "Broken, afraid, hopeless. But I learned that we are all worth more than the people who hurt us believed. You are free now, and you will never be property again." Some of the slaves were too traumatized to understand what was happening. Others cried with relief. A few asked if this was just another cruel trick. Kira patiently explained that the rescue was real and that help was coming. Dr. Helen Price arrived with medical teams to treat the freed slaves. Many needed immediate surgery to remove neural dampeners and other control devices. Others required treatment for malnutrition, disease, and injuries. "You've done something incredible here," Dr. Price told Kira as they watched the medical team's work. "These people have hope now because of what you and Jake built." The raids across the galaxy were largely successful. Over 50,000 slaves were freed in a single day. Most of the major slave dealers were arrested, and many slave markets were permanently shut down. But the victory came with a cost. Some dealers escaped with their most valuable slaves. Others moved their operations to more hidden locations. The slave trade was hurt badly but not completely destroyed. "This is just the beginning," Commander Chen told Kira and Jake a week after the raids. "We've won an important battle, but the war against slavery will take years to finish." "What happens next?" Jake asked. "We keep building the network, we keep rescuing people, and we work with other species to make slavery illegal everywhere in the galaxy." Commander Chen offered Kira a formal position with the Colonial Navy as an advisor on alien relations and anti-slavery operations. The job would pay well and give her a chance to help shape policy for dealing with rescued slaves. "I am honored," Kira said, "but I have a different idea." Instead of joining the military, Kira decided to start a rehabilitation center for freed slaves. She would use her experience and telepathic abilities to help others heal from their trauma, just as Dr. Price had helped her. "I want to show them that recovery is possible," Kira explained, "that they can become whole again and build new lives." Jake supported her decision completely. He continued his trading business but focused on legitimate cargo runs between worlds that supported the anti-slavery cause. He also helped fund Kira's rehabilitation center. The center was built on New Haven, a peaceful planet where many different species lived together. Kira designed it based on her own experiences of what helped her heal. There were comfortable living spaces, medical facilities, workshops where people could learn new skills, and quiet gardens for meditation. The first group of patients arrived, 3 months after the center opened. They were former slaves from a dozen different species, all struggling with the same problems Kira had faced: fear, confusion, and the difficulty of learning to make their own choices. Kira worked with each person individually, using her telepathic abilities to understand their specific needs and fears. She taught them that their experiences were not their fault and that they had value as individuals. "Freedom is not just about removing chains," she told them. "Freedom is about believing you deserve happiness and respect. It is about making choices for yourself and helping others when you can." 1 year later, Kira stood before the Galactic Council to speak about the importance of anti-slavery laws. Representatives from hundreds of worlds listened as she told her story. "I was once property," she said. "I was treated worse than an animal. But one human saw my worth when I could not see it myself. He showed me that all thinking beings deserve dignity and freedom." She spoke about the rehabilitation center and the hundreds of former slaves who had found new lives there. She talked about the ongoing need to fight slavery and help its victims recover. "We cannot undo the past," Kira concluded, "but we can build a future where no one is bought or sold like an object. We can create a galaxy where freedom is not a privilege for some, but a right for all." Jake watched from the audience, proud of how far his former partner had come. She was no longer the broken slave he had rescued from Zephyr Station. She had become a powerful voice for justice and hope. After her speech, Kira returned to New Haven and her rehabilitation center. New patients arrived every week, brought by the network that she and Jake had helped build. Each one began the same journey from slavery to freedom that Kira had traveled years before. The work was difficult and would never truly end. But every person who learned to trust again, every former slave who built a new life, proved that healing was possible. Kira had found her purpose in helping others find theirs. She was free, and she used that freedom to help others discover their own worth and strength.